What is the vagus nerve? You may have heard this word around, and I hope that you have. I'm hoping that it's coming more into everybody's language because it's really important. The vagus nerve is one of our cranial nerves, and it's the longest nerve in the body. Vagus means wandering. So it wanders all, not all throughout our body, but all throughout our upper body. And it connects all through the throat and the face and the brainstem, and it goes all the way down to all of our organs. And it's really like a communication superhighway between our body and our brain. It's really responsible for the mind-body connection. It sends messages and signals back and forth. And we have a tendency to always think that we're thinking and that like our kind of mission control center is up in our head. But actually, most of the messages are afferent, is what it means when it's moving up. I think I'm saying that right. The afferent messaging is from the body to the brain, 80%. That it's going down, efferent, I think I'm saying these right, is from the brain down. So actually, most of the messaging is happening in the body. Very, very intriguing. So creating that relationship in order to listen is very important. The vagus nerve controls the parasympathetic system of our nervous system. This is the rest. It controls rest and digest. It also controls our freeze response. So there's lots of things that it controls. And the health of our vagus nerve is called our vagal tone. And what it allows us to do, the vagal tone, a healthy vagal tone essentially is responsible for our resiliency, our ability to bounce back when life gets challenging, whether it's a day-to-day challenge, something cranky coworker, or whether it is some perceived threat or real threat in our lives, that it throws us off balance, and our ability to come back is really controlled by the health of our vagal tone. Do we have that pathway clear and active to be able to come back into the parasympathetic system? Because here is where we're able to digest, and we're able to build our immunity. All systems are working, all systems are a go. We're not under threat. We're able to also connect, to be creative, to be curious. All of these things happen when we can come back into these settled systems. And being able to soothe ourselves, being able to settle and work with our vagus nerve can really help us do that. A lot of the stuff happens subconsciously, but there's quite a bit of stuff that we can do in order to support our vagal tone, to cultivate, a more resilient, robust vagal tone by stimulating our vagus nerve. So some ways that we can do that is with really long, deep exhales. So an inhale is governed by the sympathetic system. The heart even beats a little bit quicker on the inhale. And then the exhale, you'll even notice that the heart slows down just a little bit, because that is controlled by the parasympathetic system. So some ways to stimulate the vagus nerve would be the long, deep breaths. Yeah, long, deep breathing. Emphasis on the exhale, maybe a little longer of an exhale. Also, any vibration, humming, chanting, singing, because we have lots of endings in the vagus nerve around this area. So even tapping in the chest, om, internal hums, singing, all of this, it brings a sense of well-being anyway, but now, the science is backing that up. So all of that. Also, being able to expel energy, being able to shake. Often we kind of do some shaking in practice, or we can wiggle around, move it out. This is expelling some of the sympathetic energy, which brings us back into that steady center. Some other things that we can do for vagal tone. Yoga is really great for vagal tone, because remembering that the tone is when we get knocked off of balance a little bit, it's our ability to come back. So when you think about being in a yin pose, for example, a yin pose can be, it can be a little bit edgy, depending a little bit, bring to the edge. But if we can stay here, if we can breathe, if we can let our system settle and realize that it's safe, then we're kind of playing with that resiliency. We're kind of expanding at the edges, which improves the vagal tone. You can also think about being in a warrior pose, or being in a pose where you can feel, the heart, picking up a beat a bit, which in that case, when things feel challenging, the tendency is to hold the breath. But can you let the breath be fluid? Emphasize even the exhale in some of these challenging poses, and it's reminding the body that it's safe, because breath is the language of the nervous system. So as we begin to understand kind of what's happening with our nervous system, we are able to create more of a relationship with it. We're able to have awareness of, the whys behind, a deep breathing in a challenging pose. Like, can you still extend the breath rather than holding it? It's incredibly fascinating how much agency that we do have when we're able to bring awareness to it. So this was just a really brief overview. I would love to do some videos on really polyvagal theory, really befriending our nervous system and understanding it. It has really shifted the way that I see myself, the way that I see the world, through regulation or dysregulation, and just the way that we move in the world. So I'm really hoping that this language becomes more common, that we all begin to understand our inner world a bit better, because when we understand that, then we can empathize with others, and it only can improve our ability to connect and to co-regulate with one another, which we didn't talk about today, but we can talk about another day. Anyway, that was really quick. I just wanted to introduce the vagus nerve to you and a few things that you can do to support it. Let me know if you have any questions. I have some videos on CCY Studio, some workshops and some longer form classes where we put it into practice, and I'll do a few here as well. Ciao.